And we're live. Hello, hi everybody.
Hi.
Uh,
Hi.
this is iBookBinding's live stream. As I said, I think last week we are surprisingly following the weekly schedule as of recently. We will break the schedule in the next 2 weeks because we will have some holidays and rest. But whatever. We have a new guest today, as it usually happens. Today, our guest is Luigi Castiglioni, bookbinder from Italy. Hi, Luigi. Nice to have you
Hi.
here.
Thank you
Uh,
to invited me here.
yeah, yeah. My co-host
I'm
is
so honored.
Pavel Voronin. He joined us from Serbia, as usual. I'm Stepan Chizhov. I'm in England, and we wanted to invite Luigi for quite some time, since I saw Luigi's work in person in Paris during the bookbinding
FMR.
exhibition. FMR. It was during COVID time, I think. It was something like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Could be. Could
Yeah,
be. But FMR never stopped
yeah.
during the COVID time as well. No, yes.
So it
All
was
the people masking.
it was a lucky day for me. I saw so many amazing people, and well, Luigi included. So, as usual, I invite our viewers to comment, to post questions under the video, and we will pass them to Luigi, and hopefully, Luigi will be able to answer them. If Luigi not the right person to answer these questions, we can keep them for our future guests. That never happened before. Our guests were always
I will
able
try. I
to.
will try to answer. It's
Yeah,
not a problem to find an answer, a good
yeah,
answer.
yeah, perfect.
It's easy.
Also, we're always happy to see comments from people mentioning from where they are joining us, from which country, from which town, locality, village, whatever. And yeah, the wider geography, the more fun for us. Obviously, we already have Timothy from Vietnam, from Timothy Bindery joining us. Hello from Vietnam. Nice to meet you here, Luigi. Um, and we'll see if anyone else tells us from where they're joining us. There are already some visitors. There, Dave Turnbull, another of our regulars. Afternoon, everyone from Scotland. We almost got to Scotland. We thought about driving to Scotland because we had a short vacation
Ah,
from
okay.
from Wednesday to today. We just drove from, but we went to North Wales in the end because it's a bit closer to us. But next time we are going to Scotland. So let's start from the beginning, Luigi. How did you turn to be a bookbinder from being a musicologist? And how else to connect?
No, okay. The connection does exist now, but I can start from the beginning. I mean, my first approach to binding, not fine binding, but just to binding in terms of decorative approach to the books started when I was 17. Maybe all the people has the private library concerning different kind of topics, and mine was so full of normal paperback books, normal
Yeah,
stuff. And sometimes I was so critics towards the choice of the design of this normal paperback books. So I started when I was 17 to break, to take out the original cover
yeah.
and to build a new one for me, following my taste, more, is with a very nice connection with the topic inside. Towards the point. I mean, books about history, Roman history, with the color pink. There is something doesn't not sound good. You know what I mean? So I started to approach myself to the book, the decoration book, only from an aesthetical approach. Nothing about how it's sewed, glued, or whatever. Nothing. And you can see here. for example, this black part of my private library, all these books, books are covered with black paper because that books speak about contemporary music. It's easy to understand. Contemporary music, experimental music, works perfectly with the black. So I started to create this kind of paper binding. Can you see?
Yeah.
So these are the names of the contemporary composer. So you can see on my back, all this library is made in this way. And I started when I was 17.
So all of the books behind you, or most of the books behind you, are rebound by you?
Yeah. I mean, about 30 years.
Wow.
And I started to make this with nothing, to know nothing about, no competence, no knowledge about binding.
Yeah.
I invented my own way to replace the paperback with a hardback cover. And for example, this is not hot printed, but this kind of decoration, the paper comes from all the technique used in the 80s to put color on the paper before the invention of the photocopy color. You know what I mean? It's ancient. So
wasn't there a term for that, like vernacular bookbinding? I think there is even a manifesto by an artist who thinks that people should invent their own ways to bind their own books, to make them their own.
I made exactly this because I was really so far from the world of craftsmanship, binding. I repeat, for me it was just aesthetical. I mean, this is nice, that is not nice. So I replaced, and I was forced to find my own way to create a different kind of cover. So it started in this way. Of course, at the beginning was so. The final result was ugly, because I have competence comes from different domain, the different fields. I connect. I mean, using glue because my father was a carpenter, and so I try a way
so at least you have some connection to crafts before you started making books. If your father was a carpenter, you had at least some understanding of how to work with your hands.
No, yes, my father, in all my family, my family is full of craftsmanship. I mean, the brother of my father was working iron. So I asked, for example, my first press, dipping press, and he built for me. And this story. So we have a self-taught family. So when we need something, instead to ask, we prefer always to build by own. So that is the point. So to briefly, and when I started to make these, at one point, my desire was to have a nice private library, as you can see in pictures, in the catalogs. These big walls full of amazing books. So I moved my desire in terms of just aesthetical, just to have a nice wall full of nice book. And because for me it was impossible to buy old edition, rare edition, well-bound edition, I started to build again by myself. So this is a book binding, a binding made by me, and looks like leather, but this is papier mâché. You know what is papier mâché?
Yeah.
Is made of paper. Is a layer of layers of thin, very thin paper, something like Japanese paper, that I create my own fake leather, because if you think about the leather, when it becomes very old, it becomes not far from cardboard. It loses the water inside and becomes.
It loses elasticity, right? Yeah.
So I made the inverse. No, I started from another point. So
Okay.
I create the fake leather from the paper, and you can see this kind of gold decoration is made using the same techniques come from the graphic design world.
Mm-hmm.
It was invented by Pantone, this kind of works in the 80s. Does not exist anymore. But I started to approach myself to the marbling art, making this. I made by myself marble paper inside, but this is not real. This is, I mean, is real. Is not a copy. Is a contemporary binding made with atypical material, processed in an atypical way, and the book inside is a very cheap book. I can tell you this kind of book is glued, is a paper, was normal paper. The price at the time was about €7. But can you see how it can become?
Yeah.
One most important example is this, In the Name of the Rose. I mean, this roman by Umberto Eco has been published in the 1980. But because I speak about old books, I create my old copies from Aldous style. Can you see? And because, I mean, just the cover at one point was no more enough, I worked, I can show you, inside as well. So each paper of the book using English tea or Italian coffee, I create the paper, the original paper printed, very old. And I reprinted because I
Nice.
was one of the first in Italy to buy the Macintosh.
Yeah.
I use at the time the graphic design, the graphic program was called Freehand to create an fake original title page using, you can see using fonts that I copied from a real old book in the library here in Rimini. But you can see, you can read exactly, and you can read the date is 1980.
Yeah.
So it's fake, but it's real at the same time. And I create my own,
a library stamp. Yeah.
Exactly, with the name of my my library, Anonima Amanuensis Library. That is my private library. So you can see here, this is, I create the map of the monastery, the history, And again, here, this is another copy of Umberto Eco, The Name of the Rose. And I made the owner was the Pope Alessandro VI, the creator of Vatican Library. And this is fake. It's real, fake at the same time. I create the created paper with the Pope keys, maybe in serigraphy, something like this. And you can see here again, I create an original title page.
Nice.
That is. And I gave, when I met Umberto Eco in about 10 years ago, I gave him a copy of this, another one, just as a homage, a present. But when I gave these books in the hands of Umberto Eco was, what is this? I mean, because these are so similar to the real old books. For him, it was a sort of surprise. So after I explained to Umberto Eco my work, he made a dedicace to Luigi Castiglioni, great forger, Umberto Eco.
Nice.
That is.
This is
So
so
this is the
cool.
beginning. So after this, I started to study bookbindings, not as an art craftsman, but as a historian. So you can see there that part of my library or catalogs or about old fine bindings, contemporary bindings, catalogs from auction house where you can find a lot of contemporary bindings. And so I made these starting from when I was 17, and when I was 29, I decided to open my own workshop, my bindery. Starting from zero, I create my own. I mean, I figure out some all the equipments, etc., etc. So I opened my workshop in the old downtown here in Rimini, in the old town, and I started my career doing the normal stuff, you know, for a lawyer, for university, normal bindings.
So just an ordinary binding business.
Half cloth, paper, normal stuff, really normal stuff. But in a couple of years, I started to be interested how to build these fine bindings I have in this catalog, you know, in this auction house catalog or something like this. And I started to study bindings, but after I opened my workshop, because yeah, destroying normal bindings in cloth, full cloth of that, I understood exactly how to build. But, you know, there is a huge gap from the normal binding to the fine binding. So I started to study in Ascona, in Swiss, at Centro del Bel Libro. I've been there about 70 times, 17, all the courses, just to arrive to have all the information. This is very my history in terms of fine bindings, something like this.
Nice. I'd like to go to Ascona at some moment, but yeah, I need to find time for that first. Hopefully,
you can come, as I told you before, next year, because I'm preparing a master class in Ascona in next year. Is a full immersion course about 9-10 days without interruption. I mean, just to show to teach people more as possible. Is a completely full immersion from box calf, French binding, decoration techniques, etc.
Sounds great.
Can be a nice opportunity for me.
And the place is absolutely amazing on the shore of the lake, and the just the area is absolutely spectacular. And
that is a sort of Disneyland. That place is so Swiss, so perfect, so well made. Is so precise. All the people are smiling in the street. It's something to be another world. Something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dave Turnbull wrote, "Awesome seeing an author appreciating your work," and that's absolutely amazing. Truly, I was giggling inside when I first saw these two bindings, and then when you showed that one of them is signed. This is quite amazing. The name of the name, is it the name of the rose? I'm not sure in English how it's in English, because I read it in Russian. Name of the rose, yeah.
No, the name of the rose.
So
il nome della rosa.
Yeah.
And when I was listening this story, I was thinking that this method would be perfect for binding Luigi Serafini's work. You know, Codex Serafinianus bound in an old tome. Now that would be amazing.
Yeah, you know, the point is we need to have a look to think about a book in his world context, not just to think about the cover, but to give a motivation, a meaning to the cover, why the cover is on the book, and why that book absolutely is going to ask you to be covered in that way. is a sort of relationships very really strange. This is my personal experience, as I told you, because I approach myself from an atypical way, not the same normal way, in front. I studied binding, so I create from binding. Mine was completely different. And for me, the book is a sort of fellow, a comrade, for me. And we always, we have a sort of relationships. I cannot say sex, but it's so sort of very deep. I don't know the English word just to explain, but it's not just an object. Cover is something else.
There should be some passion there between bookbinder and bookbinding.
Yes, to my clients, always giving giving back the commission. I explain. Remember, I'm giving you this book is not yours, but is one of my son. I give you in adoption. That's so. I have a lot of sons all around the world that I just you can keep. Please take care of one of my son. That is my approach. Is always there is a sort of link. I remember each binding I made, the time I spent for each binding, the trouble I had to create some bindings, etc., etc. Is still alive. It's great like this.
Interesting.
Could you perhaps talk a bit about this very long path of yours through courses in Ancona? I imagine you were starting with more basic things or more general courses. How do you approach that never-ending learning?
Yes, of course. I asked it to the school because at the time the master was Edwin Heim, is the king of the teacher, of the master, and because my knowledge was very low level. And I at the beginning, I asked to participate to course in French full leather using Oasis or Morocco, and they stopped me. No, you cannot. First of all, there is a sort of 2 courses you have to attempt before, because you need to know something more. And so I started with the Bradel technique, but the French Bradel technique, and go on. So step by step, I arrived to the full. I can show you the first full leather binding I made in Ascona is still here. Is made with Morocco from Relma, from Perth, with edge gilding, and from that as I worked with the chemise. But this is very strange chemise. Have a look at how it's made. It's folded 2 times, not just one. Can you see?
Yeah.
It's a sort of something like this. And the slip case. So I've been there just to know anything possible about contemporary bindings, but I studied. I attempted 5 courses from the Coptic binding to arrive in sort of, just to know something about Coptic 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th century binding, because the technique was always different. We're speaking about very minimal details, but these details makes the difference. That is the point. You know what I mean? And for me was I spent there an amazing time, and everything I learned there is I still use today, transforming, because the point. Let me to say something about students or people would like to study bindings, and the point is to learn exactly, really exactly what the teacher is giving you. For a while, you need to use this technique, following each steps perfectly identical, but after a while, please change something. So you know what that is. The point is does not exist that a fine binder is working the same way of another binder. Each one of us has an atypical, a very personal way. But first, you need to know how your colleague or your masters works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
After, you are not allowed. You need, absolutely, you are forced to change something. That is the point for me. So
That's good. I wanted to mention that there are some useful links in the description of the video. Firstly, there are links to Luigi's website and Instagram account. So please follow Luigi on Instagram. There is interesting stuff there. And also there are obviously links to our social accounts. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook accounts. It really helps to get more viewers, and more viewers means more questions and more interesting discussion in the future. So please subscribe, and also please check our Patreon account, because we get some money from our patrons, and that allows us to do some research, to do editing of some of the videos, and that's the only source of money for our podcast and live stream project. So that's quite crucial to us. Talking about the you mentioned that there were slight changes in bookbinding techniques and styles over the ages, and there are slight changes between different masters. When I posted the announcement of our today's talk in one of the Facebook groups, there was a commenter who came and he wrote, I'll just quote, because I was quite, how you say, not angry, but I was a bit disturbed by the strict way it was posted. So the message was, when the boards are laced on, there should be two holes, one just to one side of the other. And I was like, okay, there is this method when you make two slots for lace-ons but there are different techniques, and over the centuries there were so many different methods used to attach boards, and there are so many different.
No, there wasn't. There were always four raised chords. The whole thing. It's only leather, yeah.
And I sort of replied in this passive-aggressive way that there are definitely different methods, and then this person wrote, that was the way I was taught at the British Museum bindery. And that brings background. This is the way that was taught at the certain, period of time at the British Museum bindery. And that's perfectly fine. That's true. But that's just one
exactly.
of the ways.
No, each technique is perfect. Depends what is the result you're looking for. And does exist different techniques because, does exist different school. Of course, French binding is completely different from the English binding, but completely. The approach is different. I mean, does exist the Swiss school, Belgian school, English school, and French school. The American school is linked to the English school. And I'm telling this because I'm Italian. In Italy, does not exist school. So I was forced to know all these kind of different reality. I studied in France, I studied in England, I've seen what happened in the United States, I studied in Swiss, I've seen. So you can imagine from outside, I figure out to know about the different school in a sort of way, because I comes from outside. I'm just a little critics. I have some critics towards some techniques instead of others, because I can compare. The problem is French binders works using the French way, and the English binder, they working with their own way. But it's difficult that they are open to know something more about the other technique. For each of them, the technique they are using is perfect. You know what I mean? It's a sort of, I'm so proud of what I'm doing. But for me, from outside, I can compare. Okay, this way is better if you know for something. But that way is better for something else. That is the point.
Yeah.
So in Italy,
could you please elaborate a bit on Italy not having a school? That sounds really surprising for me because there is an uninterrupted tradition over the centuries.
I spent time years ago to know, because we have nothing about fine binding in Italy. Of course, we have the most important schools about craftsmanship, jewelry, restoration, pottery. Here in Italy, you can find the best, but nothing, really nothing, no, zero about bindings, nothing. And the reason, what I discovered is this kind of school, printing school, all the school about the book, engraving, printing, binding, where they were being school managed by the church.
Okay.
Not by the state, by the church, because the church created part of the church is the name was Scuole Salesiane. That is the name of this kind of huge school where the church collected orphan. A lot of young people in poor condition comes from the family just to teach a job, and just to keep inside to give food, this way. And they decided to teach this kind of arts connected to the book. So at one point, these schools were so big, really big. I mean, thousands of students. But at one point after the Second World War, the orphan slowly arrived to the 70, 80, disappear. I mean, the condition in Italy become better. So these schools started to close. And the government, the state, didn't replace this religious school from the state school. You know what I mean? And today we have nothing, really nothing. But before, in the 20s, in the 30s, until the war, the quality of fine binding made by Italian fine binder was the same that in France, higher level, really very higher level. But in a while, everything disappeared. So this is the actual condition of bookbinding transmission by school in Italy. Nothing.
Interesting. So nowadays you have to go abroad to study proper fine binding.
I mean, it's not my work, because to manage a school is complicated, but I know, could be, could be. Could be.
So you showed us some of your bindings. There are these elaborate, you called them fakes, but I'd call them, reenactments of old bindings or whatever. And you also showed us some of your more minimalistic bindings as well. But I definitely know that you also do some other bindings as well, which are more sculptural and have these insane inlays and insane shapes.
Yeah.
How did you get there?
Everything comes because I have a lot of competence, starting from the computer, starting from the approach of design, computer programming design. At the same, I know a lot about different kind of about how to work wood, how to work with iron, how to work glass, all different kind of metal.
Pavel, sorry, Luigi. Pavel, maybe you'll show us some of the examples from the website or from the Instagram something.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you can, yes. One of the most complicated binding, you can go on, or one of the last. Okay, is on Instagram. Is this one? Maybe Pavel can you see this one?
yeah,
Go down. That is
yeah,
okay. That is exactly. Yes, that is complicated because I worked on is two-dimensional binding. Is called in France in France is called reliure sculptée.
hmm
It means you can see, and it's built creating different kind of pieces glued one on the other, just to give a sort of three-dimensionality, but not flat three-dimensionality. I mean, not just the parallel, you know what I mean, parallel addiction, but create, thinking about architectural approach. That is the point. So I started to think about a binding as an architect, to think something not flat, but of course the binding is not flat, but think about the decoration, the choice of decoration, giving a sort of three-dimensionality and just to feel more space, not just a flat space, but to go up towards, that is. And I was able to do this because I know different kind of material that I prepare before to be covered with the leather. Could be the plexiglass. I mean, cardboard, wood, and I can show you some
Pasha,
here.
there are other posts nearby. The two previous posts, I think, related to this binding as well. Just if you just switch between them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the point, yeah, that, bravo. That is, you can see is a sort is not flat. I mean, it's not parallel, but is going up.
Yeah.
And starting from 0 goes to 7 millimeters of thickness, and each piece is covered with leather. And for example, yeah, I need to add something about how to work with this complicated.
How precise do you need to be pairing that? That looks extremely difficult to achieve.
I have some help. This help comes from my splitting machine. Okay. So, of course, everything is cut by hand. There does exist some video where I show you that I cut using the scalpel just to cut exactly what normally now is made in France or another place made using the laser cutting, but that in that case I'm doing by hands. But of course, I'm going to ask some helps from electronic equipments. I bought the splitting machine, and having at home the splitting machine, I can decide exactly the thickness of the leather I need. So using the Sharfix or the Brockman paring machine, you can work only on small pieces of leather.
Yeah.
With vegetable tanning, but forget to use the Brockman on the Sharfix on the box calf, the calf with chrome, normally used for fashion, for shoes, for bags, because it's so hard, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And the only way to split the leather is using the splitting machine, the paring machine. So I spend a lot of money to have this machine, but my life changed in 1 second. In 1 second changed. And that is, I suggest to all the people comes here to attempt some master classes, or when I meet some colleagues all around the world, is if you can buy this machine, because in 1 second, you have the leather, all pieces, the leather for the full binding, or just for the chemise, or just for the tree, just for the borders, something like this. 1 second. I mean, you gain so much time, unbelievable. And in terms of economy, if you do one fan bindings on each 3 months, is nothing. But if you have commission, or if you work just for quantity, just to create 50 bindings, normal, I mean, not just fan binding, but half leather, full leather, or something like this, you gain really more to avoid to spend time in pairing, or to send the leather in Paris, or to Bonanni, or to other people to pair, and then you wait for to send back.
Yeah.
Because working in this case on this kind of sculpture binding, the thickness of the box calf has to be 0.2, not 0.3. So this precise is necessary to work. So if the man who prepare you the leather instead of 0.2 works in 0.3, you are in trouble. You cannot arrive to this work. More you do by yourself, faster is your work and better is your work. That is one of my rules.
Would you like me to show something else?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I can show you. You can the green one.
Dave Turnbull just commented on YouTube. Just got a good deal on a used Sharfix, and well, that's what definitely works. We have viewers of very different backgrounds and very different, scopes. So baby steps sometimes is important. You are moving towards some goals. Now you got Sharfix. Next, maybe you'll get a larger machine.
No.
But that also depends on your projects, of course.
Yeah, I mean, depends what is your what you say, what final point where you want to arrive. I mean, for me, it was interesting to develop some different technique, and if you have machines, equipments, but here in your workshop, you can make 1,000 of experiments. Yep. Maybe the first 100 times has gone wrong, but at one point you find the perfect, the final result. But you have to spend time. It's impossible asking to other people, to other craftsmen to do this. It's impossible. So the point is, I'm always in each binding, I hope it's binding, to find something original. And to find something original, you need to make experiments, materials, techniques, etc. So, and you can see most of my bindings are really different one from the others in terms of materials. I have my own style, but it's not so evident. So immediately you can see. Maybe you can understand that it's made by me because maybe it's complicated because some point. But is I like when one binding is not a copy of the other binding I made before. That is the point. I can explain you something about. Can you see the leather decoration? The treatment.
Please do. It looks so interesting and so
yes.
unusual.
That is one of
next photo was it next photo with the minute details of the the next one.
There is the that one exactly. So one day normally at the beginning, and as all the people do, is going to buy leather. Okay, you have three producer of leather for binding in England, Russell, Hewitt, etc. So each country has the the supplier of leather for fan binding. Okay, and at one point, because in the market you can find always 5 reds, 4 green, 4 blue. You know what I mean? The shape, the kind of colors are always the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and one point, for me, it was interesting to find a different kind of color, just to transform the leather in something different that normally you cannot buy. I mean, just to transform the leather in something very individual, in something very personal. And I can explain you exactly the technique I'm using to create. Can you put my camera on the web?
Yeah, if Pavel will switch off sharing, I'll put you on the large screen.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
See, I can. So this is some sample of the leather.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is leather. I call it this leather Kraus leather because it's made using the huge, in French it's called balancier, the huge hot press machine, the big one. Okay, and I mean I create this. Is not a secret, and just a little explaining. Does not exist secrets. The point is how to use a techniques. So I can easily start from my career. Always I share my technique, what I developed to other colleagues. But the point is not just to know how, not this technique, but is how to use that technique. So for me, it's not a problem just to explain all my knowledge. I have no secret. Just so from the beginning, I started to share how I made this. And this is leather. Each kind of leather can be Oasis, Morocco, Chagrin, box calf. Never mind. Is paired 0.3 for box calf and 0.4 for the Morocco, Chagrin, Oasis, because the grain, you can go lower than 0.4, maybe 0.3 or on Oasis, but you are not far to break the leather. And then is glued on Japanese paper.
Yep.
On Japanese paper, I can tell you, this is 35 grams per square meter. It's called kawashi. Okay, just to have the final leather, something like paper.
Yeah.
Okay, the thickness now is
so that it wouldn't be too flexible when you work with it.
When it's wet, become flexible, but when it's dry, it's hard, and that is I want this. Sometimes, if you want this harder and you need more impression in terms of texture, you can paste the leather, so the leather absorb all the paste. Then you glue the paper and you put on the press. When it comes out, it becomes very hard because it's pasted, like for dress.
It's like starch, like starched. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly the same. So at the final point, you have something very, flat. Nothing is far from to be normal leather. At one point, I decided to work on texturization of the leather. And this process of experiments was about, in terms of time, 1 year, trying. So I used to texturize the leather to make a sort of embossing texturizing or something like this, and to paint. The technique to paint the leather, you can see this, the beginning was light blue, but you can see is white, is dark blue. I started to think about how to give a different color to the leather out from the normal color you can find in the market. Okay, that is the point. And instead to use dyeing color, because I don't think that to use the dyeing color on the leather is a typical technique for used by fine binder in the past time. I made this. I can show you. Okay, so using the normal hot printing technique, so you can normally print in gold, you can print a different kind of color. You are using the oeser, the film, and in that case as well, you have a sort of specific colors. You have not a sort of different kind of color or different kind of light yellow, light rose. Does exist specific color. So I started to paint by myself the film. Can you see? This is one of my sample. So once I'm going to print with hot printing this film that is white, this is white film.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I painted using colors, the white film, just to have this kind of different colors. Can you see?
Okay. And then you stamp it.
I stamp. So I stamp on all the surface of the leather. So you have a new product that at the beginning is leather, but at the end is something else. It's difficult to think that this kind, something like this, is leather. Can you see? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to print, I'm using this.
Okay. So
this is a connection.
That's the plate you use.
Okay, and this is a connection.
And that's what gives the texture. Yeah.
Bravo. But, and this is the connection with my knowledge with the programs on the computers, because using Photoshop and using Illustrator, I create my own specific texture, and then I ask it to engrave this one. So everything started from mixing different knowledge. That is the point, just to add here. So there is the knowledge come from the binding job, just to print, hot printing, but what to print, and it comes from another, you know what I mean? So I suggest to my colleague or to young generation of fine binder, don't look at something in this way, like horses. No, you know the binding technique, you know the decoration, you know onlay, you know inlay, you know different kind of something normally used in fine bindings. But use this. Look for, figure out something comes from outside the world of book bindings. You can transform, you can adapt it to create fine binding. So this is the result.
Nice.
Can I show a couple of videos about that green book, because you put some really cool videos on Instagram about the process. I really liked it. Just a second. You can talk over it. Just, I really like this one.
Okay, see. Yeah. So to cut that forms, at the beginning, I used some plexiglass form can you see now that is the final steps. But at the beginning, I used a plexiglass form. Then using the scalpel, I take out the leather, the form. And just to let you know, to my colleague or the people, to cut the plexiglass, I create the form with the computer, and then I ask to people to cut with the laser cutting. So I can have all the form I prefer, perfectly round or perfectly square, or some forms unusual, something like that. And cutting by cutting, I take out the leather, then the layer of the carbon. You can see there. And there is, just to let you know, that always the idea to use different kind of techniques that normally does not exist in the world of bindings. There is a video I can show you. Maybe you can where is there is a pink book with holes, and I showed how to create I create the hole.
If you can send it to the chat or to the Zoom chat, then Pavel will be able to open the link. And
yes, I'm looking for where is, I don't remember where is.
I really like the comment from Paper Dragon Books. I call this FU binding, just doing your thing.
Right.
This all sort of marries quite well with some of the things we discussed before on our podcast and our live stream, that we live in such a great time when you can mix so many techniques and approaches in your bookbinding and creating your bookbinding style and approach, something your own. And you can mix so many materials and so many things from different crafts and different technologies and different areas of knowledge. So this should be, in many ways, the best time for bookbinding and bookbinders of all the ages, because for such a long time there were so many constrictions on how you should make your bindings, but now you can do just anything, and there will be audience for you and a chance for experimentation. And also I wanted to read another of Dave Turnbull's comments. He wrote,
yes, but can you see, can you put these, can you see my camera?
Yeah,
can you see this video?
Yeah,
I'll try and find it. Yeah,
Pasha will find it, and I will finish my thought. Dave Turnbull wrote, "I want to be able to experiment and explore what is possible," and that's the best approach to do and to try. But the important thing is that you don't really need to have a lot of equipment to experiment. You can really start with some basic tools and materials and already do some experiments. So yeah, can you send the link to this video to Zoom chat, Luigi?
Yes.
Yes. Or you can send it. You can send it to me through WhatsApp, and I'll forward it to Pavel. That can also work.
No, it's there. Is this one? Maybe you can
Pasha,
that one.
Pasha.
Beside the white.
Top left.
This one?
Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo. Top left. Yeah. There is you can easily understand, to see there what I explained. I mean, I'm using a drill to make a binding, a drill, and just to make a normal circle. But you can see, what I think about the art of bindings as craftsmanship is we are late compared to others craftsmanships. You know what I mean? Pottery, to work the glass, to work all the kinds, because we follow always a sort of old style to create binding. But using this kind of modern approach, we can figure out something more not far to the contemporary and think about a book as a real object of contemporary design. That is the point. But you need absolutely to work with another approach, to find new techniques, contemporary techniques. Why not to use the computer? I totally agree. Why not to use different kind of laser cutting? I totally agree. The point is, if people creating object for the house, some design object for the kitchen, why not to use contemporary help and on fine bindings? I don't know if I explain myself. The point is,
we talked in some very similar terms to Mark Cockram, and he also said that there is a now old tradition of studio glass, of studio pottery, and what modern design bookbinding should be doing is broadening the scope of technique, and so many people are, and I'm really glad that you think so too.
No, I think that is good for the future of fine bindings. To have a look to the future, to the contemporary art, to think about the bindings no more as a cover for book, but a design object. Maybe just you have to look at this object as you look at a sculpture or a paintings. No, you can spend half an hour in front of a nice design object. You can do this, I think, in front of fine binding as well. No, that is.
For sure. We have a question from Timothy Binder here. What kind of the color that you use to dye the white foil? Water-based, oil-based, or alcohol-based dye color?
The color to paint the white foil is alcohol color, alcohol dyes. They're normally used to paint the wood.
Okay.
Yes.
So alcohol, spirits-based colors. Okay.
Spirits dyeing color, exactly.
So here you are, Timothy. I'm sure Timothy will try experimenting with that technique.
Well, Timothy, you are welcome.
I hope we'll see some results on his Instagram account in the future.
No, but also even for the normal title. For example, instead to place the gold title, the title of the book, you need a very light green. Does not exist. Why not to create by your own, by yourself? Okay, I choose exactly the light green can match with the binding or with the book inside.
Yeah,
it's a simple question with a simple answer.
Yeah.
No.
And then once again, returning to Dave's comment, you can do this experimentation with colors, and you don't really need a blocking press to work with this foil. Then you can use standard gold tools, finishing tools that all bookbinders used for centuries. It will take more time to finish the job, but still you can experiment a lot with this already. So
but you can even use just the curves of the flat tools, but using, for example, a painted foil, in 1 or in 3 centimeter, you start with the red and you finish with the rose. You have a line that with the gradient, graduation. That is the point. But this is using a normal, classical, ancient tool for gold tooling, but the final result is contemporary. So think about tens, parallel line, using different kind of colors. Disappear the idea to have in front an old style book made with the tools flat, with the line tools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just changing the foil. I mean, I cannot say it's easy, but it's possible.
Yeah, for sure. There needs some time for adjustment.
No, that is.
Yeah, Dave wrote, "I'm retired. Time not time isn't a problem." So yeah, there's that. Dave is
Okay.
our today's comment star. He's just saving us and posting a lot of questions and comments. Thank you, Dave, for this today. And I hope other people will join, because Luigi is such an amazing source of ideas and information. If you have any questions, please post them. And we still have some time. We
Yeah.
have something like 20 minutes, 25 minutes until the end of this video, so you have some time to finish to talk about and to answer some questions. Yeah, I wanted to say something else. I forgot. But Pavel chose to show the book that we discussed a bit earlier, and Luigi sent me a copy of this book, and I took it for my vacation with me, but I forgot it in the car, so I don't have it on me right now.
But I have my hands. So if you put me on camera, I can show something. That is the book.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a book I made. The idea to create this comes from 15 years ago, because one customer asked me fine binding on a book, and speaking, normal speaking about this, changing some words, having a conversation with these clients, we start to speak about how a binding is made. So he was really curious, but asking something, I can say, very easy, elementary question, because he didn't know anything about binding. So I decided at one point, working on his commission, his binding, to take pictures by myself of the steps, all the steps, just to arrive from the beginning to the end of binding. And because my competence using Macintosh, Photoshop, etc., and thanks to the digital print, for me it was easy to create a sort of little album, photographic album, and with some short, very description, just I'm gluing, cutting, something like this. And I printed this book, and creating the Solander box where to place the fine binding, I made an extra drawer where to place inside this digital printed book.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave to the clients, explaining, okay, you asked me something in the book, in the Solander box, you can find the answers. So all the people are happy. And the clients, once back home, after a couple of days, wrote me an amazing mail explaining, I was more excited and more emotionated, some more, not by your bindings, oh, thank you, but the process, from the beginning to write the fine binding. From one side, for me, was not so very good, because, okay, I appreciate my work at least. From the other side, I was so excited because what I made was able to touch deeply the bibliophile, more, than the final work. It's the same. You are going to buy a painting from Picasso. He's still alive, and you spend 3 days beside Picasso, watching him just to make the painting. You feel a very strong emotion during the process of the work. Then maybe when the painting is finished, it's the same approach. A lot of this kind of approach is made. It started to made years ago, when some company create the making of movies. For example, Apocalypse Now. You have the normal DVD, but when you have the possibility to have a look how Apocalypse Now is made, of course we are going to buy the making of. The same idea. So it's nothing, and this is the same. It's nothing to explain how to create a fine binding.
Yeah.
It's not a tutorial, but give you the aesthetical, the meaning, the choice of in terms of materials, in terms of techniques used to arrive to the final book. But you can understand how it's made. You cannot do it again, of course, because it's not so easy. But at least your curiosity is satisfied in a sort of way. That is the book. It is printed, for people know, it's only 100 copies, no more.
Yeah.
So it is.
Yeah, that's also connected to something we discussed before we started our live stream. That there is definitely a lot of disconnection between bookbinders, book collectors, booksellers, and probably there is another group of book conservators, which is sort of near to bookbinders, but still a bit apart, and they have their beef between them as well. So, and there are some books or things that help to bridge the gap. Like the I think it was book collectors ABC or something like that. There are tutorials, there are guides, and there is information, but still there is not enough knowledge there. So yeah, thanks for that book.
No. For me, it's important that the people knows more about fine bindings. Okay, just to discover something about fine binding, how it's made, not just the final object. That's the point. So the people can understand the value of our work, because when you do a fine binding, you spend a lot of time. You are forced to figure out some tips, and some just to solve some problems, the choice of the material, the treatments of the materials, and why not to explain, to show to the people your work, that is not only the final object realized, but is the way to arrive from the beginning to the end.
Yep.
The sort of philosophical approach is not where you go, but the way you go to the place.
Pasha, did you want to read the comments, or did you have your own questions?
I wanted also to show the musical score publishing work of yours.
Let me read the comments, and we'll move to that then, if that's okay. So we have Timothy wrote, well, thank you so much, Luigi. I will try to do it, then get back to you. So we'll see some experiments soon. That's great. Already people are, brains start working, and things are moving. Dave Turnbull wrote, Luigi is causing my mind to shoot off in all sorts of directions. Loving it. So that's what we're here for. Also, we have Samuel Feinstein in the comments. Nice to have you here, Sam. I love the Maestro's English edition of Anatomy of Bookbinding, and also Timothy wrote the English copy is so much lovely. So yeah,
thank you.
That's that. Thank you, Sam. And Pasha, are you going to share something, or how you would like to go about that? We don't hear you, Pasha, for some reason.
I'm sharing it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I can explain this. The point is, and it starts from really very far. Thanks to my competence in musicology, and one day, about 17 years ago, I started to imagine that instead of poetry, poems, instead of literature inside printed in the book, I am going to bind. I have my hands to binding, to make a fine binding. I imagine to have the music, because for me the music is a sort of another language, is a sort of literature, is a sort of poetry. The only difference is because it used a different alphabet, but you can read, you can write. This is not a problem. So during the year, I started to, have a reflection, and the final point is, okay, I decided one day, okay, this project is ready. is mature, can be realized. So I started to think about to print music and to create bibliophile books with the music, with the printed music. And it's not easy because, okay, again, thanks to different competence comes from outside. For me, it was easy to use programs to manage the music file, is to create the metal plates engraved, etc., etc. And because I know how to work with the letterpress machines, a lot of I mean, thanks to my past time spent in working in a different fields. So the point is, and this is a suggestion for my colleague for the world of fine bindings, because this is my opinion, my idea is the world of fine binding is no more like 30 years ago, is smaller than 40 years ago, because less bibliophile collector in the market, less demands from collector, and it means the market is not so huge like 40 years ago. The market from the old master, It means my idea is also to give new oxygen to the world of fine bindings. And imagine now in the world does exist X number of bibliophile, but how many people is music lover instead of book lovers? And the idea is, if we transform the music score in a bibliophile book printed following the rules, the very dogmas, the rules of best printing possible, best paper possible, illustrated by great artists, etc., etc., we can transform the music score in an object that people loving music can start to collect. And this kind of book that I printed, I'm going to print again, and these books are not book to be read, because the music score is transformed in graphic art. It's better to enjoy this kind of book if you are not able to read the notes, because you are going to approach this book from an aesthetical point of view, because notes and how the notes are printed is giving you a sort of, I repeat, graphic design. You can think about that as exact like paintings, engraving. And these can, I hope, can enlarge, make wider the public and the clients of the fine binding world. So people never collected music score can start to collect this kind of book as well. The bibliophile collector can start to collect this kind of design books, where instead of alphabet, you can find only a different kind of alphabet. So think about if when I say we, I speak about my colleague, the world of fine binders, starts to have to open a new market towards the world of music. Can you imagine how big can become our market? So we can collect more clients than normal. And another point is, speaking about notes, speaking about music score, a French bibliophile can ask a commission to an English fine binder or to a German fine binder, because we are speaking about music that is international. So we stop that English bibliophile ask binding only to English binder or to American fine binder. but you can, the English binder can sell his work in Germany, in Swiss, in Italy, in France, in Russia, in different kind of countries in the world, because that is international. So can you imagine how bigger can become our market? And that is my mission. I would like people start to collect music score unbound, like made, as you can see, just printed in letterpress in a slipcase. So a collector going to buy one of my edition can ask a fine binding to a French binder or an English binder. It's not a problem. You know what I mean?
Yep. We have a comment sort of related to that. Another comment from Dave Turnbull. Thanks again, Dave. Now I'm wondering if I can write some code to generate images from a music score, and that may be an interesting project and something interesting to marry again with bookbinding or bookcraft. I think Pavel experimented with some generated stuff some time ago, and there were some really interesting things.
I still do. You don't need to know much of programming to do to get really interesting results. There's a processing programming language. It's like very basic, but it allows you to connect graphics and music
Yeah,
and even interactive things, like you can do something to the camera, or you can move your mouse or press keys, and you
yeah,
get generative graphics, and it's not difficult to use at all. A friend of mine teaches like 18 year olds at a designer school to do that.
yeah,
So basically anyone can do that if
yeah.
designers can. Yeah.
Let me to add something, I think, very important for my colleagues. Now, today, when you approach yourself on a fine binding, of course, you are inspired by the text inside, or the author, or by the illustration inside. Okay, you aspire. But when we speak about music, you can think about the decoration of the book, just listen to the music, and your inspired world become bigger, because you, Pavel, you are going to listen to the music following your own experience, your sensibility. I'm doing this in a different way. The same, you know what I mean? So what you are going to do on the cover, on the fine binding, will be very more personal than a sort of collect or a sort of link with illustration or with the text inside. That is the point. And this means your creativity can enter in a huge, free, virgin space. You can do something really different that you made until today. You know what I mean? It's a sort of new space, new open space in front of you, just because you are going to listen the music. Never mind the title of the music, never mind nothing else. It just comes from inside you. And you can think about you really exactly like a painter. You are in front a blank canvas, and never mind what is inside of the book, but you can create your own design, personal design. That is important for a fine binder, to a sort of new kind of challenge that comes from the music, from the listening to the music. Okay.
I should probably say that we are getting closer to the end of our live stream today, and if somebody else, there is another question I will read in a moment, and that's sort of important question, and I think it relates to some things we discussed already with Luigi today, but maybe Luigi will add something, and yeah, but I should say that's. This is the last opportunity for you to post any questions or comments because in 5 or 10 minutes we'll be finishing our live stream, and that will be it for today. Again, I invite everybody to check the description and check the links in the description. There are links to Luigi's website and Luigi's Instagram account. Please follow Luigi. Please subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Check the link to our Patreon account. Pledges start with only $1 or £1 per month, and it's really important to us, and it helps us to to research stuff, to edit some of the videos that need editing, and yeah, we really cherish the support of our patrons. Or you can just subscribe on Patreon, because you don't have to pay money to subscribe there. You can do that for free. But anyway, here is another comment. We have it from Bookbinding or Bookbinding, because it's spelled with the Y in the middle. Andrew from Melbourne, Australia. Gentlemen, thank you for your streams. Why do bookbinders now make such elaborate visual designs for covers rather than hiring the services of a visual artist? I'll start with my own answer, if I may, because if I'm doing something like that, I will definitely hire a graphics designer, because I can do nothing about designs or something. If I need some design for my book cover, I will ask somebody to do it, and then I will implement it, because I'm sure in my power to implement a design in very fine details. But I guess Luigi has some different experience, and maybe he will give you a different answer to that question.
But the question is thinking about the design. In specific, the question was about what? I don't understand.
The question was, why do bookbinders now make such elaborate visual designs or covers rather than hiring the services of a visual artist? I understand the question as it's bookbinders themselves that try to make some elaborate designs and not asking professionals to make a design for them that they can implement.
In the past time, for example in France, the fine binder was just a designer. If you speak about Paul Bonnet, one of the most famous French binder in the 50s, in the 60s, he made just the design. Just really designing on the paper with the color, the mosaic, the kind of mosaic, what kind of the mosaic, the choice of color. And other people worked for him to create the text block, to cover with the leather, to make the gilding, and to make the mosaic. So, and this kind of fine binder, in reality, they worked as a designer. At the same time, where they were able to design a chair, they were able to design a table. That was normal. But because the market of fine bindings, because in the beginning of 20th century was almost normal for rich people to have a private library, more precious as possible, for them was normally to give commission 20, 30, 50 books each year to give to the fine binder to create the fine binding. Of course, if you work by yourself, it's impossible because too much time. But if you have 3 people working for you, one for each kind of step, you can just make 50, 60 or 70 design of paper on how the binding has to be made. But today is no more possible. In terms of, is very bad to say, but in terms of money, you cannot. Because it can be that if you made a design, you give the job to do to other people, you collect only 1/3 on the final money. 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3.
Yeah.
But if you have only 1 or 2 bindings each month to do, you collect nothing about money, because you split with other people. But if you have 1 month 10 commission, okay, now the work is good. You design, and the same time people work, and the same time you design, and at the end of the month you collect enough money. Is bad to say, but it depends on money. That is the point. How many commission you have. But the bookbinder now today is designer, is exactly an architect. You design the house, but after you have to build the house, you design it. That is the point.
Yeah, that's also sort of connected to some things that we discussed with our previous guest as well. Because, for example, we often ask our guests if they would like to have an apprentice. And for example, we talked to Benjamin Elbel some time ago, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, I had an apprentice, but then when I hire an apprentice, I get no income, because apprentice, it's out all the income, and then they study with me for a year, and then they go away and start their own business, and I have to either hire a new person, train a new person, and once again I have no income because I'm spending so much time training the person or something like that." Yeah,
it's a real problem. It's a real problem. Yeah. I had here one girl. She spent 2.5 years. I trained her, and after she back in Paris, and now she has own bookbindery shop. But I was agree, because for me it's important just to teach something, to train someone, to ask them some help for a while, for a couple of years. We agree, but the point is, our market is not so big that let us to create a real company. Company means people, different people, each one with specific competence and work. Is not so big. Yeah. That is a point.
Also, I understand there is a bit of a difference in approach depending on the country and tradition, because there is large bindery tradition that was, for example, in Germany or in England or in the US until the mid 20th century or 1980s, something like that, where lots of people work in the same business. They can separate the tasks between different people, but still it's a one business. But then there is a more French approach, where sometimes different processes are sort of separated by different businesses. So there is a person who is an artisan or craftsman who is working, for example, with gold tooling, and he's focused on the gold tooling, and it's a separate. Yeah, it's a separate business. He's not a part of a bindery or something like that. And
exactly, Bayton is a huge example.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
Bookbinders will pass work to him, to this person, and they will do their magic, and they will return. This person is not a part of the bindery. And then some other processes can be separated this way as well. So that's that. And then there is a modern world once again when we have to count money more carefully. And oftentimes, bookbinders have to do all the processes at once, and otherwise it's not economically feasible.
Yeah, now we are forced to follow all the steps, except in France, where it's normal for the title. No.
Yeah.
In French, it's normal that bookbinder give the binding to the people just for gold tooling or title on the cover, on the chemise, on the binding.
Yeah.
But that is the only place where this reality still exists, separated people working on different steps.
Yeah.
For example, I was forced to learn all by myself from the beginning, from the text block to gold tooling to the edge gilding as well. I mean, I'm doing by myself.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. I mean, it's just to have time. It's the time. That is.
Well,
But
I guess that's a good moment to finish our talk, and it's a good place to to put a full stop. Thanks a lot, Luigi. That was a great talk.
no, thank you.
I got everything I wanted to get from this talk, and much more. It looks like our viewers also got a lot from this talk, including some creativity boost as well. We have Elizabeth Wetland on Facebook. Thanks for an interesting talk. So Andrew from Melbourne wrote, thank you for that answer. Yeah, thanks everyone for being with us. We'll stay for 20 seconds or something like that until this stream drops. We are taking 2 weeks break, and we will return probably on the 18th of March. We have a guest. We're in discussion. We're scheduling time. May 18th of May. We'll talk about collecting miniature books, probably, if everything works out. That should be an interesting talk. And then on 25th of May, we'll have Jorge Lar, a Portuguese bookbinder who works in Denmark, and he also does some medieval reenactment stuff, and that's an interesting mix of everything. We recorded a podcast with him a couple of years ago that still not aired. It waits to be published, and we hope to publish it, but we decided things are changing, and he does some interesting stuff, and he does wood engraving as well, so it should be an interesting talk. Stay tuned. Please subscribe to Luigi, as I mentioned, and stay tuned for the news for his course at Ascona next year. Thank you, everyone, and see you in a couple of weeks, in 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So let's wait until the stream drops, and that's it for today. It was a great talk. Absolutely
Luigi,
amazing.
I didn't get to ask you how you managed to get hold of Gavin Bryars, and also, do you think, as I do, that there are certain parallels between his musical style and your bookbinding style? You know, like minimalism plus experimenting with texture.
I can tell you something. I know the Gavin Bryars music since I were 17. And I can tell you that when I was 18, I traveled all around Europe, just listening to the sinking of the Titanic and Jesus' blood, these pieces. And still they are engraved in my mind. But when I decided to start this project, this crazy project about printed music in form of bibliophile books, etc., my first thought was about Gavin. So in a certain way, I approached him by mail, then by post, and only one thanks to the COVID, because all the people were at home, spending time at home. For him, it was easy on something different, just to spend half an hour on Skype, just to speak with me. I introduced him my project, and he was immediately agree. Okay, do it. I like this. So I started to think about his music, just to work, etc. In February, I've been in New York, and I made a contract with Philip Glass to print his music. You understand, Pavel, what means this? Because I met a lot of composers in the United States explaining this project just to use his music and to transform this music in